Hello and welcome back to the Bellicose Nation. You know, I try to cover a wide variety of bases here, but more and more it seems recently that every topic that comes up in current events has to deal with gays. Now, I could actually do a whole channel on just this, no kidding. But today I want to talk about a video that's gone viral. And it's about a Pridefest out in Seattle, Washington, and a mob that attacked a few innocent protesters who were standing there with signs only. They tried to run them out of the park. They physically and aggressively attacked them. They verbally harassed them. And they actually tore their signs up and beat them to the ground. I mean, here you have a group of brave Christians standing in broad daylight on public property in the midst of a crowd who lectures the country, indeed the world, about equality, freedom, live and let live, and rights. One would think that this would be the ideal place for any group to find their rights respected. But instead, what did they find? They found bullying, hostility, slurs, threats, intimidations, even mob violence against them. Now, you know, anytime you have a group of people, you can always find a jackass in the crowd. And so you got to allow for that. But I'm going to tell you, when we examine the nature of the gay celebrants in this video, we find it's not just one person acting un-American. We see it's people coming out of the woodwork to join in, to abuse these people who don't appear to be saying anything. They're just holding signs which don't even specifically mention homosexuality. Yet these handful of Christians are attacked and driven off the park property with abuse. And you know what? The rest of Gay Fest just kind of stands there and watches or walks by. Now, I got to tell you, man, I think it's time for conservative folks to wake up and to examine the losing strategy that they've been clinging to and face some reality. And that's what I'm here for. Because if you don't, your kids and your grandkids are going to live in a country that they will not recognize, and either will you. And let me tell you something, they'll either become more like them or they will exist as a person in hiding, in fear. And in fact, today we already see that a little bit, don't we? I mean, somebody mentions their support for traditional marriage, the next thing you know, they lost their job and their livelihood. You saw what happened to Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A stood for marriage, and what happened? Several mayors around the country came out and couldn't wait to condemn them and vow that they would not open any more Chick-fil-A's in their city. Think about that. Several colleges banned Chick-fil-A from their lunchroom and college campus. Talk about tolerance. Wait till this thing really gets cranked up. You're not going to believe where it goes. Now, I want to go over a few thoughts here because I have a change on tactics that I want to suggest that conservatives consider. Because we need to do something, and it's not working what you guys are doing. So, number one, nonviolence. Nonviolence only works when you're dealing with civilized oppression. Okay? And when the media is sympathetic to your cause. The reason Gandhi could stop the British trains from rolling was because the moral code of the British forced them to put the brakes on. If he were dealing with the communist or Hitler or some mob like you see in this video, they would have ran him over and sent a bill to the family for the cost of cleaning the blood off the train. And you would have never even known who Gandhi was. So we must be willing to meet fist with fist when it comes to that. And I'm serious. And for some of those Christians who want to keep turning the other cheek, I would humbly suggest that principle followed to an extreme does nothing more than damn you and your offspring to a future of darkness. Even Jesus took the time to braid a whip to drive the offenders from the temple. And he also instructed his disciples to do what? To sell their coat and buy a sword now. He also, in the Old Testament, sent the Jews in the battle to meet the enemy. He charged David with slaying Goliath, even cutting his head off. Truth is, this nation would not even exist if that first generation of Christians were only content to turn the other cheek. So you got to get past that. The time for turn the other cheek is over. It's time to resist and fight back. Number 2, the media. The media is not interested in your truth, and that's why all these videos are meaningless. Imagine if this scene in this video were instead a Christian gathering, which attacks some gay rights folks, destroying their signs, demanding that they leave the public square, and beating them to the ground. Is there any doubt that that would have been the leading news across the country in every market? Instead, we had this story that barely cracks a few markets. The mayor would have came out and spoke against it. The president would have called and congratulated the brave gay protesters that got attacked. But that didn't happen. Instead, it was Christians that were attacked. Nobody called. Nobody cared. A couple people got charged, and that was it. So it's not a story that's got legs because the media doesn't care. So forget about this high-minded stuff where you think you're going to out these people with a video. The media doesn't care. You keep playing by the old rule book, of right and wrong and all that. Let me tell you something. These folks, they only care about the rule book when it suits their purposes, which is exactly why they keep talking about rights, rights, rights. And you see what happens. Number 3, churches. Divide and conquer is not a method our opposition needs to even put on us, because we do it to ourselves. No, it's not that we're in conflict. Churches are not in conflict with each other. They pretty much get along, but they're not unified. Look at the coalition the left has built. Groups and factions that have no common interest except power, the desire for power. And look at the success they have. We need to copy successful strategies. Churches need to come together for their survival. You better look to the UK, look to Europe, and see what your future looks like, because that's where you're heading. Churches send tens of millions of dollars and send untold thousands of people to countries around the world to bring them spiritual light and to ease their lives' burdens. In the meantime, ours is being crushed and extinguished. It's time we turn the fire hose on our own house as it burns. People who value traditional views are a huge segment of the population, but they allow themselves to be mocked and disheartened by a loud vocal group. We've got to get past that. We have got to be bold. Now, as I wrap this up, I want to say that no doubt there are gays across this country who have seen this video, and they were troubled by it. But my friends, where this movement is going is not going to be dictated by those reasonable gays. It's going to be led by this mob that you see, and it's not only, you see this where unions gather, you see this at pro-abortion rallies, the same thing. Anyone's opposed, they're beat down, run off. They don't have rights, and that's where we're heading, folks. You better get ready for it. Because let me tell you something, they seek to silence and shut out those views that they can't tolerate. The question is, are we going to resist now or wait till it's too late? It is time to put on a new game face. You've been listening to the Bellicose Nation.